On today's Soundiron session, we're going to be breaking down a track inspired by the gritty dystopian atmosphere of Cyberpunk 2077, so stick around. Hello again and welcome back to another Soundiron session. My name is Craig Peters and today we are going to be breaking down a demo that I wrote that was inspired by the music of Cyberpunk 2077. So if you've heard the soundtrack or played the game, it has a very synth-heavy production with a lot of industrial, aggressive, and futuristic elements. And this was a demo that I wrote using our newest library, Icicles Pop Ice, which is the newest addition to the Hopkin Instrumentarium series. This is a very unlikely type of instrument that you would think in something like this, but I used a lot of plugins and I used a lot of the ambiences that come with the library to really craft that really dystopian and futuristic type of sound. So let's go ahead and check out the track and then we will break down how I composed it, the types of sounds that I used, and the types of plugins that I used to achieve that more kind of sound design element. So let's go ahead and check it out. All right, so that's the track, so let's go ahead and start breaking it down a little bit. So a lot of the content that I used from Icicles Pop Ice is a lot of the sound design atmospheric pads and drones. A lot of these had this very cool sound to it, and I used some plugins to even sound design it a little bit further. So the first thing that you hear in this track is this ambience 10. And what I did is I put an arpeggiator on it. So if I take this off, it has this sort of sharp attack, but then it has this sustain to it. So I put an arpeggiator on it, so it sounds like this, and I'm just gonna go ahead and hit play. So it just has this kind of loop. I'm almost using it as just kind of this like synthetic sort of metronome. And then with Icicles Pop Ice, we have some percussion that we recorded using this instrument. Bart Hopkin has these really unique instruments, and this one is very different than some of the other ones that you've seen before because it has these stainless steel metal sheets that are used as a very resonating type of sound. And by hitting it and using it in a more percussive way, you can get some really interesting types of percussion sounds with it. So I have this going on, so let's listen to it by itself. It almost sounds like this big church bell. And then I'm doing some sound design to this using this thermal plugin. This plugin's really cool. It has a lot of very gritty, distorted types of presets and effects. The one I used is this crushed atmosphere. So if we turn this off, it sounds like this. A little bit warmer and darker, but then if we turn this on, adds a little bit more of this kind of almost like slightly modulated distortion, which is pretty cool. And then after that, I'm using these icicle plucks, and these are really cool. And I'm gonna go ahead and turn off the processing so you can hear how this instrument sounds by itself. Very bell-like quality to it. Very chimey and icy sounding. And then I started to use some other effects on here. So let's just start with the very first one that I used. And this is another instance of thermal. And it's this preset called Pad Killer. And this is when I started getting led down sort of the cyberpunk journey. When I was first doing this demo, I wasn't exactly sure where I wanted to go, just kind of loading up sounds and then letting inspiration take over. And then when I started getting to this sound, it really started kind of reminding me of Cyberpunk 2077, because there's these more kind of ambient tracks in the game where you're either in a little bit more of like a stealth mode or that sort of thing. Because there's this one track called Extraction Action, and it really reminded me of that. So it has this kind of... So you can almost hear like it's sort of filtering through this distorted type of sound, which is really interesting. And then I have this other plugin after this, and this is another one from Output called Portal. And this is using this preset called Grain Runner. And then we have another plugin, and this is Black Hole. This is just a great plugin for creating any kind of very atmospheric, very ambient type of reverb. It just is really good for creating any kind of atmospheric type of sound. And if you want to hear this by itself with the instrument, it sounds like this. Just really makes anything dreamy. Especially when you play it higher. Completely different sound and effect. But then when you start to add some of these other effects, even with the Portal effect, it still sounds pretty pleasant sound. It doesn't sound too gritty or mangled or anything. But then when you add this other one, really takes it to a whole nother place. And I really like the sound of that. And I really thought it kind of created this very dark and dystopian type of vibe. So that was the effects that I used for the Icicles Plucks. And while this demo mostly uses sounds from Icicles and Pop Ice, I brought in another virtual instrument of ours, and this is Glitch Hero. This library is perfect for any type of dystopian, dark percussion. A lot of these are very mangled sound design hits. And these are the low kits, and I'm using these bass stingers. So if we want to hear this by itself, it sounds like this. Just these big, gnarly kind of electronic types of sound design hits. And then on this sound, I'm using an AutoPan plugin from Cubase. This is built into Cubase, so if you have it, definitely experiment with it. I love this plugin. I believe I have it on another track on this demo as well. And this is just a really cool plugin. It just does this awesome job of just panning stuff around and really adding a lot of movement to your track. So if we turn this off by itself, so you can hear without it, it just has this very wide sort of stereo sound. But if we turn this on, you can hear it just adding a little bit of movement. And this is just a really cool and quick way of just adding movement to your track using plugins like this. And then around bar 7, I'm using another ambience from Icicles and Pop Ice, and this is ambience 18. And this one just had this really kind of dark, ominous, and distorted sound to it. And it just really sort of brings in this low end and really sort of draws you in, I think. And it comes in, yeah, around bar 7. So let's check this out just by itself so you can hear how it sounds. And this is using no external plugins. This is just straight out of Icicles and Pop Ice. So how this comes in, it plays this little melody a little bit from the Icicles plucks. And then we start to bring in this ambience 18 and just really brings in this low-end ominous sound to it. So let's hear it together with these two. Let's just play these two together. Just adds this dark type of disturbing sound to it, and I really thought it helped kind of really make the track sound a little bit more intense, a little bit more dramatic. So around bar 11, we started to bring in some other elements, and this one is using some effects as well. I'm gonna turn these off, and you can hear just what this track is doing. Just this arpeggiated square hard, and this is using the sub-synth staccatos. And then we're adding some other effects. And you can see with these effects, it just completely changes the type of sound that you hear. It's almost like this weird, dizzying type of high frequency arpeggiation or something. And this is using Portal as well. And this is this preset called Glass Glitch. So you can really hear this makes a big difference as far as just kind of sound designing. This is using the Valhalla Shimmer just to add another type of very atmospheric space to this track. So if we listen to this by itself, and then I also have another instance of Autopan, just taking this, this arpeggiated frequency and bouncing it around. And you can hear just very slowly just going back and forth. You can even see it right here on the screen. It's just very slowly going back and forth. And even this track by itself would be really cool if you were scoring some kind of futuristic scene and you just wanted the viewer to be very kind of uneasy but very subtle. You can do that, and it would be really cool, I think, for something like that. And then we have this other sub-synth staccato playing at the same time, and this is not using any of those effects, so you're getting that low kind of square staccato that's playing underneath it. And I think these two tracks layered together have a very, very dark and like that futuristic, disturbing type of sound. So I thought that was really cool. And then we have this other sound, and this is using another ambience. This is ambience 3, and this is just adding sort of like a very high registered type of melody, just to give it a little bit more of a musical interest. Bringing that ambience 18. So let's go ahead and unsolo all of these and listen to these 6 tracks all playing together by themselves. And this is basically the last half of the track. And something I probably could have even done if I wanted to is duplicate this last part. So I'm kind of curious to see how this would sound. As you can see, it's kind of, you know, some parts will be empty, maybe this next track will be empty, and then this track will be empty. So this is just a cool way of being able to move musical parts around and add a little bit more interest, just so it's not like a static loop or anything like that. So let's see how this will sound if we brought that sound designed Icicles pluck with the effects for the end of the track. So it's actually kind of cool. Now that I'm listening to this again as I'm explaining it, I probably would have added that before doing this video, but actually it sounds pretty cool when I hear it again. So yeah, that's the track. And if you want to learn more about Hopkin Instrumentarium, Icicles, and Pop Ice, you can head over to soundiron.com. If you like this video, give it a like. Thank you so much for watching. We appreciate all of the comments that you guys have whenever we release either new libraries or cool little composition videos like these, whenever we can do them. So thank you so much, and please subscribe if you haven't, and we will see you in the next one. Take care.